My name is Desmond Peterson, and I play the role of John. Listen, there's so many lives connected to your destiny. If you give up, what about them? God bless. I felt great. When I wrote this script, I wanted to kind of touch on, marriages, even though I'm not married, but marriage is my passion. I wanted to touch on marriages. I wanted to touch on betrayal. I wanted to touch on just those issues that comes with being in a marriage. And I just kind of want a hand in helping marriages to see how to work it out. Sometimes when we work it out on our own, it ends in failure. But when we do it according to God's way, we can get better results. And that's pretty much what I wanted to minister to the world.
Okay. How did you separate yourself from being the writer, the producer, and the actor?
Well, as a writer, I oftentimes I write according to the way I feel that God gives it to me. That's what I write. I don't write according to what's in my head, or I don't try to be creative and write what Des want to write. I always listen to the Spirit, what the Spirit is saying, and I write it. As an actor, the tricky part about being an actor is you have to become this character that you envision. And a lot of people think when you're portraying a character that you wrote, it's easy, but it's not. Especially when it's a character that's so far from who you really are. So that was the challenge with John. So I oftentimes, what I did was I went around and I had people call me John. I dress as John. Since me and John dresses differently, I would dress as John would dress as opposed to how Des would dress. And I tried to kind of feel the pain and the loneliness that John was going through. Even though I haven't physically gone through that myself, but I just try to put myself in John's shoes. As a producer, it was just important for me to make sure everything lined up the way it was supposed to, in terms of locations and in terms of the videographer, in terms of the director, getting the right actors. You know, all of that is pretty much significant to a story. It's one thing having good actors, it's one thing having great actors, but it's another thing having anointed actors. And what I mean by anointed is, I'm talking about those actors who I believe that God specifically designed to bring your story to life.
What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was the crying scene. And I say that because it's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for any man to pretty much put their emotions on display. You know, so I kind of have to step out of the cliche of men don't cry and men tough and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And when the reality is men hurt too. You know, we hurt too. We may express that differently than women, but we hurt too. And I wanted to show the fellas that, you know, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to hurt, because we're human. We're men first, but we're still human. So it was a challenge for me to tap into that place, but I knew because of where I had to go to that place, I knew it was important. So I just put myself in that place and I just let her rip. It was fun, it was a challenge, but it was fun.
Okay, so you have a couple films under your belt, like Hosea and Oh You Little Faith and Double Betrayal, which is coming out soon. So how was it for you to step back as a director this time and just be an actor? How was that for you?
It wasn't hard. It wasn't a challenge at all. It was just different. It was just different. The director who came in, India Perkins, been knowing her for years, and she's just phenomenal. I actually heard the voice of God and he actually literally told me to give her that torch. And I was obedient to it because I know she can handle it, even though it was a feature. I like to see people start off maybe with some small, maybe short films and things like that, but because God was telling me to pass it to her, I know she had it in her. God never requires us to do anything unless he puts it in us first. So I knew she had it in her, you know. So it was a challenge for me because we sing things differently. You know, she seen it according to the way she wanted it. I seen it according to the way I wanted it. Not everything, but just certain things, little snippets here and there. But I had to pause. And I had to trust her, and she just did a bang up job with it. And I'm proud of her.
Who was your funniest person on set? Who made you laugh the most?
Bashoy Hana. Bashoy Hana was the funniest person on set. He was funny, he was playful. Sometimes he played a little bit too much, you know. Sometimes he held up production, but you know, it's one of those things that's been on set. You know, you just got one of those characters who's just naturally funny. you know, and he was one of them. So he kept everybody laughing, and you know, it's good to have that one person in the room that's naturally funny, just to kind of keep humor, especially when things get tense on set. It's good to have that one person on the set that can just kind of bring that humor to it. So yeah,
I
for
have
sure.
2 more questions for you. Sorry, 2 more questions. What do you take away from this film?
What I take away from this film is patience. I think patience is one of the strongest assets to this film, and I say that because a lot of times when we want things to go a certain way, they don't. And it doesn't mean that they're not gonna go a certain way. It just means sometimes we just have to be patient. Things don't move away according to the way we want them to. And what we have to do is we have to trust God first, and we have to trust the process. You know, we have to trust the process. So I think that was the biggest thing that John struggled with. He wasn't patient, you know, and he stopped. And another thing that I take away from this film is belief. And the reason I say belief is because a lot of times when things ain't going the way we want them to, or the way we feel that they should, we have a tendency to give up. We have a tendency to quit. We have a tendency to turn our own way, you know, and we have to continue to trust that things are gonna work out. And I think that's not only what John learned, but Dez learned that as well.
My last question is, why should people go see it?
I think people should go see End of the Road because, again, especially marriages, I'm hoping that marriages will see the result of bad choices. Okay, if I handle it this way, this can happen to me. If I handle it this way, then this may not happen to me. You know, if I make certain choices, if I want to be like John and just go outside of my marriage, then, you know, something can happen to my marriage, or worse, it can end up in divorce. Or I can be patient, we can talk about it, we can have more communication. That's something they didn't communicate more of. Maybe we should have a balance of work, you know, and our marriage at the same time. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I'm hoping that marriages take out of that. I'm hoping they have a different perspective of how they go about handling life situations.